sports. I will be brutally honest. Ain't nothing but being brutally honest. Coming at you with another video.
What's up, everybody? Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome my special guests. We're talking 49ers Talk, man. We got my guy, 49ers Plus podcast, man. How's it going, man? Al, how's it going, bro?
Good, man. Thank you so much for reaching out. I know that's my bad. I've been seeing your Twitter messages and then like, oh, did I respond to them? No, I didn't. Forgot about it. Just crazy whirlwind. So glad we're able to connect, man, and chat some Niners tonight.
Yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good in the hood, like they all say. But you know, I kind of agree with what you're saying about how they're going to approach this offseason, man. I don't understand how some of our fans think like, oh, let's get so-and-so. I'm like, hello, bro, how much money do we got?
Dude, it goes back years, right? Like, and I don't really follow many other teams other than the Niners, but I'm sure baseball, hockey, basketball, it's all the same way. Someone's released. Let's sign them. Doesn't matter how old, how expensive it could be. And listen, we got Monday, the whole legal tampering thing opens up and you know, they could start announcing some deals or whatever. We'll see how much this whole, you know, Jed York's going to be cheap and Parag's going to control the money. And we'll know in like the first week or two if this is like serious or just like a lot of people just talking online, like just making guesses about stuff.
Yeah, we'll definitely see how that plays out because Monday we'll definitely find out how this plays out. But as far as like we just recently claimed Davius Hodges-Tomlinson, which I think is like a cheaper bargain. I think if I'm mistaken, I think he requested a release from the Rams. It wasn't like the Rams just cut him for the hell of it.
Well, listen, I guess I can get kind of excited for an NFL player that's smaller than me, but like I'm only, I think, 5'9". But listen, they only have 3 corners under contract, right? It's Demo, it's Green, and it's Luter. So they got to start stocking up, and I'm sure they'll bring in like a veteran in free agency, a low-cost veteran. I'm sure they'll draft somebody, and this is someone that, you know, could potentially play the slot, and if that's the case, it moves Demo outside with Green. I'm sure he got like very little or no guaranteed money, so low-cost signing.
Yeah, it sure is, and there's still a possibility we can get Jonathan Allen, but the question is he going to even take a bargain deal? So we'll see.
Any of these players, man, I think that's what's wild. You know, the one that has the best chance of taking a bargain deal is Joey Bosa, right? Playing with Nick. But Dre, you know, he's not going to take a bargain deal. I think they offered him like a 1-year, $10 million prove it thing. And that's what was reported, right? And he's like, nah, no thanks. And I understand that. Listen, if I had a chance to get, you know, 3, 4, 5 years and a whole lot of guaranteed money, why would I take a 1-year deal anywhere? Right? Like I got to set myself up. But Jonathan Allen's another one, man. Like, all right, released, not great against the run, injuries last year, sign him because you know the Niners medical staff will definitely turn that around.
Yeah, I've seen his production decline. So even the injuries kind of like declined his production. His sack numbers went down. The pressure is kind of like not the same. I could see why the Commanders wanted to trade him in the first place.
Yeah, and I'm glad he didn't come back as part of the compensation for Debo. I think we all looked at it and we're like, wow, only a 5th-round pick? And it's kind of crazy because, what was it, yesterday, Christian Kirk was going to get released by the Jaguars. He got traded to Houston for a 7th. And at this point in their careers, I'd rather have Christian Kirk than Debo. So I think that, you know, it was like the Trey Lance trade. You only get a 4th for Trey Lance from the Cowboys, but you know, sometimes who knows what that's going to turn into, what this 5th is going to turn into. Did Trey Lance pick turn into Mustafa? Could happen again.
I mean, that trade for Trey Lance at one point seemed like a loss because, we gave up so many draft capital for this guy. And then 2 years later, we trade him for a 4th. And then now we got Malik Mustafa, who's turned out pretty good.
Do you think, not to beat the whole trade thing, I'm not going to beat the trade thing to death, but prediction from you, though, where do you think he goes?
Yeah.
Where do you think he signs?
Yeah, like definitely do. Like you see how these teams were playing out to be, right? It's like, man, sometimes you want to hit and miss on all these guys, but it's just sometimes you don't get them all good.
No, and that like last year's draft for the Niners, everybody made the team, but that lineman Jarrett Kingston. But the previous, X number of years before that, they were at like a 50% or less hit rate. So the Niners, if they got 11 picks now, they probably trade up a little bit. Maybe they make 8 or 9. But if they can have 4 or 5 or maybe even 6, rookies that are getting like some good snaps, because rookies don't get snaps under Kyle. They get some rookies that get under good snaps, and they're going to get younger, cheaper, faster. It's what John Lynch is saying. They just got to do it. You can get younger and cheaper. You just got to pick the right players.
Yeah,
you can do
a lot of the young players, and plus the approach is going to be a little different now because now they're not going to do what they did the previous year. I think they're going to approach ruthlessly and be a little more. They're going to cut down the cost a little bit, from my understanding, because I'm looking at all the stuff. Mike Silver, despite what people feel about him, even though I don't like the guy, but he kind of has a lot of credibility for what stuff he does. And I think they should be a little bit more responsible with how they're spending. Right? I don't know if they ever used the phrase going all in, but 2023 was a really good shot. They tried to run it back. It's always bad when you run it back if you're the Niners. 2019 ran it back, bad. 2023 ran it back, bad. But this is when Lynch and his staff gets paid, right? You get paid to make good draft picks. You get paid to make smart free agent acquisitions. Like, I live on the East Coast. I'm not a Yankee fan. I'm a Met fan. I guess I'm speaking at both sides of my mouth, but there was, 20 plus years where the Yankees just bought everybody. You can't do that. Like, at some point it's going to catch up with you in the NFL, and they do need a little bit of a reset, or a little bit of just pump the brakes, slow down. Like, there's not going to be a big sign. Yeah, don't take the big ones, please. Just take the ones that fit the financial plans, and at least try to see if you can work on something with them. At least maybe you might get one of those guys who probably underperform and might turn out pretty good at the end.
Yeah, they can, there's nothing wrong with like a mid-level free agent. Like, someone making, sign someone 2 years, $10 million. I'm just kind of throwing those numbers out there because your big signing so far was Demo. And we were all excited when that happened mid-season, but now everyone's like, free agents, who are they going to sign? The big signing is going to be Brock. And I do believe it's going to happen at some point. There's no way he's going to play on his fourth year, on his last year
of his contract. But I think as far as do you think he's going to reset the market? Because $60 million is ridiculous.
That's the only thing I think I'm in agreement with the vast majority of Niner fans out there. Because I don't know what the split is, but a lot of people are like, "Oh, Brock, you got to offer 45, take it." That sounds like a lot of money to the vast majority of people, right? I take that in a heartbeat. But I got an agent, and I'm looking around, and Tua is getting mid-50s, and Trevor Lawrence is getting mid-50s, and Jordan Love, and Brock's got the resume. He shouldn't get more than Dak, because that was a stupid contract. Just like no one's
going to get a dumb contract by Dallas, but now they're restructuring that contract to where they can give Michael Parsons a big contract or somebody.
They got, keep signing the same team, man, and stay like 8 and 9. I'm cool with that. No one here loves the Cowboys. What the hell?
Yeah, let them be mediocre. As long as Jerry Jones lives forever, man. I want him to live to 200 years old at least.
He's the next Al Davis, man. It's horrendous.
They lose those touches once they have their success for quite a while. But
yes,
I get that the Yorks haven't really reached this, won a Super Bowl for quite some time because of what Eddie DeBarlo built. But this is just hard for them to come. But the Yorks have changed a little bit lately. They're letting these guys. Let these coaches and all the people run the team instead of jumping in. Before he would always jump in, and that's what kind of led the clash between him and Harbaugh. So it's a little different, but I think the way they're changing it now, they're trying to limit the spending parts and all the other stuff for Kyle, so Kyle can cut it out.
And I don't know how much. I don't think any of us know how much Kyle's part of contract negotiations. When you hear him talk, and he talks about upcoming free agents or people that want to get paid, I think he stays out of it. I know he's buddy with some of the players. They go to Cabo and they do all that stuff. But I think when it comes to money, he takes a step back, and it's John and Parag. Unless there was that report last year about when Ayuk might get dealt, and Ayuk, ran into Kyle's office, and Kyle ran up the stairs to John and said, "Don't drink." Ayuk wasn't going anywhere. He said no to the Browns. He said no to the Patriots. I don't know if he ever said no to the Steelers. So I don't know if Kyle gets that involved. And listen, there's only so much any of us are going to cry for billionaires complaining about not having money. The Yorks have the money, man. Come on, it's crazy.
Yeah, and everybody keeps saying they're cheap. Well, we've been the second most spending team in the NFL. If you look at the amount of dead cap money, does that make us a cheap football team?
No, and they're doing the right. I mean, they're spending,
yep,
in a way over the cap every year, right? They got their cap rollover. It makes the standard salary cap go up, and they're spending relatively close to it. So no, they're not cheap, but you just can't spend stupidly. Like I
can't. It's like a credit card. You're going over your credit card, and you know how it says like the bounce, whatever, and then you're out. So it's
the one example, and I know we hate them because they won the Super Bowl and they're the Eagles or whatever, but just based on one player, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, however you look at it, they let go of Hargrave, or they didn't re-sign him. Niners signed Hargrave to a massive deal. The Eagles draft Jalen Carter. Now, who got the better end of that D-tackle situation? That's why, like, the Niners can rebuild it. They can build it the right way. They just got to hit on the right picks, and they can keep it cheap. Because even if they won the Super Bowl 2 years ago in 2023, they'd probably be in the same situation now of trying to figure out how do we fit everybody, right? Because you can't do it forever, right? And that, as much as it'd be great to have that Super Bowl and rewatch it on DVR of them beating Mahomes and the Chiefs, fans still would have revolted last year. Like, how much time does a Super Bowl give your average fan to not turn on you when things are going bad? I don't think it gives you that much leeway.
Nah, doesn't go that long. It can change at any seasons. Like when it comes to like a team, like, when Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2017, eventually the coach got fired.
Yeah.
So that tells you that job security ain't no guarantee. But Kyle has it pretty simple because Jed trusts him. So I don't think he's ever going to be on the hot seat unless he has another losing season. Then maybe you might want to question it. But as of right now, what other coach would you want to replace him with? That's the thing we're all trying to like. I get that a lot of our fan base are fed up with him, but I feel like, how are you going to replace him?
I remember talking with another content creator about this. In terms of who's in the NFL right now, of course, you'd replace him with Andy Reid, maybe a John Harbaugh, but, the one that jumps out is Sean McVay. If Sean McVay ever became available and the Niners did something really ridiculously bad or underhanded and McVay became the coach, I'd feel good about that. Because you still have another young offensive mind that calls the plays. Because when you lose Kyle, you also lose your OC. Like, you got to replace two people then. And unless, if they have another crazy injury season next year and they win 6, 7, 8 games, you got to give them a pass because injuries, they derailed the whole season. But even with those injuries, man, they should have been better than 6-11. Like, there were still too many good players on the field. Like, they should have won 8 or 9 games. They would have missed the playoffs, but they should have won 8 or 9 games. When it goes bad for Kyle, like COVID year, and
at least a couple difference plays, like the division games, we should have won those 3 games, but it came down to those plays.
Like, I mean, easiest way to think about it is are the Chiefs 15-2 if they have Sorensen as their D coordinator, and are the Niners 6-11 if we had Steve Spagnuolo? Like, coaching matters.
It'd be a little different
different.
It'd be a little different, but everything was kind of like luck for them. Like, every game was too close. I had a feeling that their team wasn't going to be sustainable, but I didn't think it would go too long to the Super Bowl. I would think a team will knock them out of the playoffs.
Buffalo again, man. They can't get over that hump. And regardless if we think Josh Allen got that first down or not on the sneak, you just can't leave it that close.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, but I guess Kenny has a different opinion. He says he thinks Saleh would probably be the next head coach if it had to be under the circumstances. Like, dude, Saleh kind of been tested as a head coach, and it just hasn't worked out with the Jets. I don't know.
You know what? The Saleh signing at D coordinator worried me about it a little bit because he's a flight risk, right? He wants to be a head coach again, and he's probably going to be a head coach this upcoming season unless the defense completely bottoms out. I hate to say it, the only thing I'm glad about, and I don't know about the whole Saleh for head coach thing, I'm glad they got Gus Bradley.
Yeah, he's another backup option for DC because you're going to have a back pocket, because if he leaves for head coach, you get Gus Bradley, who's been more seasoned as a DC. So
I'm 100% with you. Like, that was a very under the radar type of signing, knows the cover 3, can play the wide 9. As much as a lot of us are a little iffy with the wide 9 right now, at least he knows that he's comfortable with the system. And once Salah goes and it's a year or two, at least they got someone waiting.
Yeah, I mean the wide nine has to fit with the skill players at least. It would be more effective if you had those players, or else it won't work against the run.
Yeah, and listen, there's nothing to get wrong with blitzing. Nothing wrong with sending a little blitz every once in a while. I mean, how's funny? I remember saying this to a couple of people. God, I'm blanking on Vic Fangio. Eagles obviously dominated the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Vic Fangio did his best Nick Sorensen impersonation in the Super Bowl, not blitzing once. That's the vision. That's what John wants to do. They just don't have the horses right now.
They don't. They need some guys. They need some young talent. They need some guys that would fit their scheme. So, like, if you look at how our pieces are, it's not like it's not far off. We can still compete for a run for the Super Bowl. It's just if everything goes right. Yeah, we're retooling. We're getting rid of certain players, but I think we're still a team that can make the playoffs because the schedule is very favorable.
Listen, easy schedule. The whole NFC West has to play the same schedule, at least the divisions we do, right? The NFC South and the AFC South, bad divisions. But yeah, I it's going to be interesting to see like kind of what's going to happen this season with the defense. Because to your point, they got the pieces, right? I mean, who knows if Floyd's going to be on the roster come September, if they cut him and save some money, whatever. But if you go Bosa and Floyd and Warner and Demo and Green and Mustafa, that's more than half of your starters. Are we saying that's not enough? Like, do we have to put together a Madden all-star team for Salah to like, they need D tackles that can stop the run and also get some pressure up the middle. Like there's work to be done, but this whole fall of the Niners, the window is closed thing. And I'm not a biased fan. I don't believe it yet. I think there's a better chance next year that they go 12-5 and
go further.
8-9. I mean, right? You got to stay healthy.
They got to stay healthy. See, that's the key word, stay healthy, because I feel like when we were healthy, I think we were very competitive. But now that you're kind of getting rid of these other players that are up in age or getting rid of the bad contracts, you're starting to reset and get all the talent players. So that means you're only going to get better with all the young players.
Yeah, I mean, and there's decisions to be made, right? Like, Juice being one of them. Like, is he gonna take a pay cut and stay? Do they cut him for cash or cap reasons? And listen, it's the last year of his deal. I don't think his play has dropped off at all. I mean, his receptions, his rushing yards, his touchdowns, receiving yards, it's been consistent the past 3 years. And he is sadly kind of tight end too, right? Like there's no one behind Kittle that scares you. And he's had more catches the past 3 or 4 years as a fullback than any other tight end on the roster. So he may not be the most flashy, youngest, fastest offensive weapon you can have, but he's still a mismatch issue. And, if he's going to get you 14 to 19 catches a year, that's kind of tight end 2 numbers. I think you keep him until you have a better alternative, because if you remove him from the offense, is that going to throw Kyle's world crazy because he doesn't have a fullback now or a versatile? Like, how much does that actually impact the offense? I don't know, because since Kyle's been here, Juice has been here.
I mean, he's accustomed to the fullback because he does all the dirty work, and he is a guy that can catch the ball at the backfield. But like, you got to pass block pretty well in this offense for him to be out there. Like, Juszczyk has the simplest position. All he has to do is do his blocks. I wouldn't say it's easy for a lot of us, but it's like he does his dirty work blocking, and he just catches the ball when it's necessary.
Yeah, and he's an outlet for Brock, right? Like, especially last year with McCaffrey being out, Mason was out then obviously Guerrero missed some time too. It's not bad to have another option in the passing game, especially when you're lining up in maybe 11 personnel, or you're lining Juszczyk, with Guerrero or McCaffrey, that you have 2 running backs that are capable of catching the ball and being a mismatch with linebackers. He's not getting re-signed, obviously, beyond 34. But the Niners did this to themselves a little bit. When they signed him in 2015, they made him so much the highest paid fullback, right? Like,
they call him an offensive weapon.
So much. I mean, they were so bad they'd overpay everybody because no one wanted to come here. They were so bad. But
we were that bad that we had to offer some big money, even for a guy like Malcolm Smith, who was overpaid. But even though he gets that resume from the Raiders and that Super Bowl MVP with the Seahawks.
Yes. Yeah. And so when you look at it now, Juice is still the highest paid fullback in the league. So I can see why. I mean, if anyone's looking at it like, maybe you want to take a little bit of a pay cut, I'm not putting my hands in another man's wallet or anything like that. They got to figure that out. But hopefully Juice stays and realizes all right, whatever my pay lowers down to with San Fran, it's still probably going to be more than what I'm going to get somewhere else. Like, I'm hoping that the logic, even though it's a humbling experience, I'm sure, I'm hoping he thinks about it that way. And, Super Bowl's in Santa Clara this year, man.
I think he wants to, at least, because I think he made it pretty clear he doesn't want to go anywhere else but here, from the looks of it, because he likes the commodity over here. But Super Bowl is definitely in Santa Clara, so that's going to be something to look forward to. But just from the atmosphere, the difference of going to a playoff game is a lot different than a regular season game. I could tell you that. Just from last year's NFC Championship game, I was just right down there, dude. Crazy atmosphere. We were down by 17. It looked like everything was in the Lions' favor. They were just getting a little arrogant, cocky, and say, "Hey, we're going to get our tickets to the Super Bowl." And then second half, they just went quiet. It's like kind of funny.
Now I haven't been to a home game yet. I have to get out there. One of my neighbors, someone lives around the corner from me, went to the NFC Championship game. He's like, "Is the best experience of my life." Didn't look that way in the first
first quarter. It looked like I was wasting money for a second, and
it really felt like, I'm like, if I'm going to go to a Niner game, I should go to this NFC Championship. They should beat Detroit. And then Detroit came out firing, but it's a game just like the Packer game before that no one wants to give credit to Brock, right?
Yeah, he came from behind and won these games, even though people would say it's all McCaffrey and those other players. Well, Brock was the one that engineered this drive. So
he for whatever reason, people don't want to believe. Are we saying he's a top 5 quarterback? No. Is he a top 8 quarterback? I don't know, maybe, but he's probably in that 8 or 9 to 12 or 13 range. And that's okay. Not everybody can have a Josh Allen, right? Not everybody can have a Mahomes.
Nobody's going to be a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes. But like you said, you're right. Is he a top 5? I wouldn't say a top 5, but at least maybe top 8 to where he can do his job good enough.
And those people get paid. There's a room in the NFL for a top 10 quarterback. Nobody could tell me there's not, right? We're not always going to be able to have a Montana or a Young or the Packers having going from a Favre to a Rodgers. Been very fortunate as fans, but Brock has shown a lot, and he's going to be worth what he gets, and it should be in the 50s.
I mean, you look at a lot of these quarterbacks; they can play as long as they want it, as long as because the rules protect them a lot. So it's at some point, Aaron Rodgers just retired, but I think he just can't get out of football because he just pays them and he just does it,
And, now that, being in the Northeast, obviously he was with the Jets and he's been talking, or his representatives were talking with the Giants, even though he hasn't been officially released yet. The Raiders were a possibility, but for some reason they decided to trade for Geno Smith. And I know that's the Pete Carroll connection. So we'll see what the Seahawks do at quarterback. But, I don't know what Rodgers' end game is if he goes to the Giants. You want to play one more year, make $20, $30 million. God bless. But, finish with 6 wins. Good for you. You should go to Pittsburgh. I mean, that's his best chance to actually finish trying to win for a division or be playing meaningful football.
He would make the playoffs with Pittsburgh with that kind of team around him. I mean, he can't do any worse. And maybe if he wants to, he can take Adams with him to Pittsburgh if he wants.
Yeah. But anybody that's listening, man, anybody that's saying online, "Oh, Niners should go after Rodgers," no. I don't think it's happening.
So from looking at free agency, what backup quarterback would you look into that would be probably won't break the bank, but be a nice solid backup for us?
Oh boy, that's a good. I hope it's not. Listen, I would have loved to have Josh Dobbs back. He doesn't want to come back. He thinks that if you believe what you read, that he won. I thought he won the competition in the summer. They gave it to Brandon Allen. I don't want Brandon Allen back. I don't know if someone like a Mac Jones would break the bank, and not because that was the Trey Lance draft. Not at all. I know they've been linked to Flacco. I worry about Flacco a little bit because if they don't really upgrade the line, he might be
at his age he'll break down. But
right? I don't know. I haven't given it a ton of thought, but I'm curious. And I'll turn the question back to you. But I'm just curious if they go 2 veterans behind Brock, or just 1 veteran, just 2 QBs on the roster, or get a veteran and then make Tanner Mordecai the number 3, or they draft someone in the 6th or 7th round and draft a rookie free. Go cheap.
Go cheap, mostly if day 3 you can get somebody maybe in the 6th or 7th round. You can stash them on your roster. Maybe you put him into your practice squad if somehow he makes it in, or see what you got with Tanner Mordecai, which he's got some pretty good upside. I mean, he's very mobile. I've watched him a little bit from Oklahoma when I was watching some of the college games. he was mostly a backup, but when he played at other schools like SMU, that's
Yeah.
where Danny Gray got a lot of his production from, was from Mordecai. And then went to Wisconsin, which he's the Ryan Fitzpatrick of college football, but he's mobile as heck.
Listen, at any team, if you're down to QB3, it doesn't matter who you have, your season's over. If you're down to QB3 for an extended period of time, your season's over. But who are any thoughts from yourself? Like who are you looking at or hoping for from a backup QB standpoint?
Oh, from a backup QB perspective, I mean, it has to be somebody who would fit the system. But I would think, like you said, Mac Jones would probably make the most sense depending on what kind of price he wants. I don't think we're gonna break the bank. I'm thinking this may sound like an unpopular move, but I think Gardner Minshew might be an intriguing backup. I don't think he'll have to play, but I think if case something happens, he might just hold up pretty decent.
No, I like that. I think someone like a Daniel Jones is going to get his shot somewhere else or make we're talking about a $4 million or less backup.
Yeah, that kind of quarterback.
Right?
And those guys, I don't think Gardner's going to demand the high pay. He ain't going to be a starter. I think he'll look at himself as a backup. And I think under Kyle Shanahan, he can't do no worse than what we got right now.
Would you bring I think I know the answer to this, but let me just ask this. Would you bring CJ Beathard back?
Part of familiarity, and plus Kyle knows him, but I just think there's better options. But I think he probably would only be because of the commodity.
He could it's proven he could take a beating. So no matter what happens to that offensive line, you know he's going to get back up.
Yeah, but he can take a lot of the hits. I'll give him that. He's tough as nails. But if I had to go with a quarterback, like it's got to be somebody who's going to at least operate the offense really well. And he's actually shown some of that. But I think as far as like somebody that I could take a chance on, like you said, Mac Jones would probably be the safer one. But I think if you want more experience, you want to go with Flacco. But even at his age with that line, I don't know.
I like Minshew. I like what you said with him. And, you know, the Raiders have got their starter. You know, we'll see what Cleveland does, what they're going to do. Tennessee, do they take a quarterback at the top of the draft? The Giants need somebody. So there's still some musical chairs to happen. That's why someone like a Daniel Jones is probably thinking, or a Russell Wilson or a Justin Fields is thinking, you know, I might be able to be a starter somewhere or a bridge QB. And obviously the Niners don't need that. And if it's all going to come back down to pinching pennies, they're not going to have a ton of options, right? But if Minshew could come in for under 4, maybe under 3 million, I'd be totally fine with that.
But I mean, this may sound like a sleeper one, but I will say if he doesn't get re-signed by the Broncos, I would say Zach Wilson would probably be somebody I would take a flyer with, because we've seen it with Sam Darnold, man. He just wasn't in bad circumstances. And you look at Zach Wilson, there's talent there. It's just maybe better coaching, and then maybe he can go elsewhere and be successful.
I think living in the Northeast, I'm scarred by the whole Zach Wilson experience, watching too many Jet games. But it's not a bad idea if they believe that he can run. He's got the arm, right? Mm-hmm. If his head's right, if his head got right under Sean Payton in Denver, you know, I forget who was the number 3. I don't know if was Stidham the number 3 or
I think it was Stidham. Yeah, Stidham was
even
number
like
3.
Stidham, does he potentially, you know, come in? That no one's talking backup QB, and no one should be talking backup QB because Brock's the number 1. He's, knock on wood, been pretty durable other than the elbow.
Yeah,
but it's just gonna be an interesting signing.
It sure is. Like, I think when we look at the draft, I think it's just, we're probably going to go best available, but everybody thinks we should go offensive lineman. But when I look at the draft spots where we're at, it's like there's not quite a lot of good ones you can go for it in this early part of the round. I think if you maybe getting one in the 3rd round might be your safer bet, but I think Membu would probably be the only one I probably would be fine with.
It's I've done probably way too many mock draft simulators. And I got so excited when the Niners got their pick for Debo. It's like, oh, I get to do another pick for this simulator. But depending on who's there at 11, a Banks from Texas, if Will Campbell's there from LSU, I think you have to be intrigued by taking a tackle in the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round. They got 2 third-round picks at the latest, just because there's no guarantee Trent Williams plays beyond this year. And, who knows, like the whole famous Kyle Shanahan thing, I don't know who's going to be alive on Sunday. Like, he could have an injury next year. His body could break down. He's 37 years old. Plus, this is the last year of McKivitz's contract. So if John has that philosophy of you're drafting for a year ahead to fill a need, they will be taking a tackle. It's just a matter of who it is and how early it's going to be. And I would be fine with the tackle at 11. I would be totally fine. But I'd also be fine with Mason Graham or, a pass rusher or, those first 3 rounds are going to be crucial. They got to hit them 4 picks.
They are going to be crucial because I think it may be a surprise because, like last year, did anybody expect us to get a wide receiver? Like, I may go on a very hot take. I think as far as first round pick, this may come as a shocker. Maybe we might even go tight end without even noticing. I just think because we went the unexpected. Like, imagine what Kittle would do with a complimentary, man. That can open up the offense a lot more.
In the mocks I've been doing, and they're worth nothing because I'm not a scout or whatever. Like in the 3rd or 4th round range, I've always been taking a tackle. I think one of the first 4 picks, tight end. If it's someone like Mason from LSU.
I like Mason Taylor,
Gunnar Helm, if he's there, Ferguson from Oregon. Like there's gonna be some options. It's just a matter of, is it someone that Kyle thinks can block and receive equally as well? If you can't block, no rock, right? It's not gonna happen. Would I be shocked if they went tight end 11? I guess so, but I was surprised that nobody saw the receiver pick coming. And I guess in hindsight, you look at it and you go, well, if they thought that they were going to maybe trade Debo at the end of the 2024 season or this offseason, then they got to stock back up. And they doubled down. They took him and Cowing, and they'll probably have to draft another receiver this year just to have some depth on that in that position room anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're gonna expect it, but who knows? Like they did the receiver unexpectedly, so it's like we didn't see that coming. We thought maybe it was like offensive line or something else, but receiver was like maybe okay. If we were gonna go receiver, maybe Lat McConkey was the option, but no, they went the other route. So it's like this one could be a surprise. Like I think Tyler Warren can be the actual fit, but is he worth that spot? I don't think he would be. Maybe trade down.
They could. I'm sure they have their, what do they say? Like their gold helmet players. Like there's only a certain number of gold helmet players or a certain number of first rounders that they have grades on, and maybe a certain number. Well, there's 10 probably top 10 picks on the board for them, and they're sitting at 11. I think the only thing I would be shocked by in the draft, at least day one, is if they trade up. They could, right? They could, but I think if they could trade down, maybe accumulate some picks for next year for 2026. They got a lot of picks already. Like
we got 11 picks. I think we're going to expect to get some more stockpile picks, but I think you're going to use those to trade up some spots and get somebody you want. So
I don't remember the players exactly, but the list of players that the Niners under Lynch and Shanahan have traded up for, there are more misses than hits. Doesn't mean anything for this year. And again, I'm with you. I think they're going to trade up because 11 rookies are not going to make this team.
No, they're going to at least trade up and maybe get to a spot to where maybe they're maybe 10 spots or higher, and then they move up to get them and they use that extra capital for that purpose. But yeah, I think 8 or 9 would probably be the most we're probably going to have on our draft class.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, 11 and 10 rookies, that's a reality. Hey, let's get all these young guys and keep them on a contract. But no, they're going to use that it's a moving piece for them to go get somebody they can move up for.
Yeah, they're not an expansion team, right? Like they're not, a bottom, tennis. I don't even know if 11 rookies would make the Titans roster. And the Niners have a much better roster than Tennessee does. So it's good. It gives you flexibility with the draft board. I think that's great. The only thing we're going back to, we're talking draft picks, like with the Debo trade, is I'm surprised that they didn't ask for maybe a better pick next year. They didn't have a 5th round pick. That's their money round. I get it, but they already had 10 picks. I would have been more comfortable maybe getting a 4th in 2026, or maybe it's a 5th that turns into a 4th based on how well Debo plays. It's not like they only have 5 picks. But
go ahead. But I feel like the 5th round's like our golden spot where we find somebody. So it's one of those spots. But like when you watch college football, you see how all these guys get all these ranks and all that stuff. I look at what I see on the tape and all the other stuff. I don't look at what all these people hype on about. Like this kid from Texas A&M, I don't get what they're hyping this guy. Like he's not quite as productive, but on tape, he shows little flashes, and I'm like, I'm trying to buy into this kid, and I'm like thinking, I don't know about him. Doesn't seem like
Shamar
Shamar
Stewart, right?
Stewart. It just I just don't see what they see in this guy.
No, and I don't know if it was ESPN or NFL Network or maybe something online was putting up, his measurables against Myles Garrett, and obviously they both went to Texas A&M.
Far off comparison. That's why
I
I
mean,
don't
it
get it.
doesn't
Like
mean
he looks specimen. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But man.
At some point, I mean, are there tales of players that are better pros than they are college players?
That can be one of those, yeah.
It's the exception. It's not the rule. And at some point, it's like, man, if you couldn't do it, I mean, he was in the SEC. All right, that's fine. That's a big boy league. But if you couldn't do it in college, how are you going to do it in the pros? It's hard. He's an iffy pick. And yeah, great. He had a great combine. He had a great broad jump. How does that help you in the NFL? I have no idea. Like all that, the underwear Olympic stuff it's great TV to watch, like background stuff, but it
doesn't really translate much on that type of stuff. Like you can have the fastest 40 in the world, but can you, like when you look at a wide receiver, like he can have a 4.2 speed, but can he catch the ball? Can he do
exactly?
This?
And they're training for this combine for months. They're training just to run that 40-yard dash 2 times or to bench press or whatever. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. I think it's O-line or D-line for the Niners in the first. We got 6 weeks, no more, 8, however many weeks to the draft. I may change my mind, but that feels like it's the most. I mean, those are the 2 biggest areas of worry for all, right? O-line, D-line. For them not to go there, be pretty shocking.
Yeah, because if we can fix the trenches, then I think we're set for certain areas. We can fix those areas like no problem. That's why we're going to address them in free agency, get some guys, maybe take it on a bargain, try to add some dead pieces, and then maybe if we're lucky, we probably sign one splashy player, but it won't break the bank,
If you had to put some money down, who might be the splashy player that you think either they should sign or they may end up signing?
Okay, like as far as splashy, I wouldn't say he's a splashy one, but I think he would definitely break headlines. Like everybody's talking about Joey Bosa would, but he's not gonna break the bank like everybody else. He's not gonna be the same guy. But I would think if you put him in a rotation with Nick, I think he can be more effective. Just he can't be much of a starter no more. But I think he would be a good pickup if we were to go that route on the cheaper type of deal, not the big money type of move.
No, I'm with you. I think he's much more realistic than DJ Reed coming back or DJ Jones coming back.
I would want Drew Dolman, but I don't think they're going to do that.
I mean, I'm sure you saw like that the reports online about people are estimating that Aaron Banks might get like $18 million a year.
That's a lot.
Like if he got half that, he should be lucky. Like he was an average, like literally an average at best guard. If he's going to get 18, what's Drew Dolman going to get if he's the best center on the market? And we all know Kyle likes veteran centers, whether it's Weston Richburg or Alex Mack or Jake Brendel, but they've come out and said, we don't spend money on the O-line outside of Trent. I can't imagine that changing this year. And now like, oh yeah, we'll give $15-ish million a year to a set. I can't imagine it.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I just think that if you were to go with that offensive line, which they don't really spend that much on, like we just got Ben Barch on a very cheap deal. So it's like he's going to compete for that starting job. I think they already like what they've seen from those 2 games. But
agreed. Yeah.
And I think signing Matt Hennessy might just hint that maybe they're not going to go get a veteran center. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's what they're looking at. Maybe Matt Hennessy is the guy that's going to probably maybe compete over Brendel. Maybe that's what it looks like. Or I could be wrong. They go get Dolman and they cut Brendel, and maybe we get Hennessy as the guy who can play guard or have him compete with Barch or something. We'll see.
No, I'm with you. I thought the Matt Hennessy signing was I don't want to say sneaky good. I mean, he was practice squad player on the Falcons, but the Niners signed him smartly to a 2-year deal. I guess he didn't get into any games, I don't think, right, last year. So at least they saw him in practice. Competition for Brendel. I don't know if they've totally given up on Nick Zakiel at center, because I think when he came in that last 6 weeks of the season, he was playing some of the guard position or the left guard mainly, but he's an option. But then again, also, when you think ahead to 2026, Zakiel's going to be a free agent. If Hennessy plays well, Hennessy's going to be a free agent. Burford's a free agent. McKivitz is a free. Like they gotta I think draft 2 offensive linemen, one say in the first 3 rounds, and you could take maybe a 6th rounder, like a guard or whatever, and then still bring someone in from free agency. They're gonna keep 9 on their 53, right? So you want to have like 15, 16 in camp, fight it out, see who's going to be on the practice squad. So, I mean, they got a lot of expiring contracts coming up on the O-line, and they got to replenish.
I mean, you can get one maybe in the early part of the round, and maybe get one on day 3 that you can develop nicely. Yeah. So it's like, because I'm too deep into the draft. I look at all these offensive linemen that I like, but if I had to choose a sleeper that's really caught my attention, as far as like, you know what, I don't think he should be expected to start right away. But if you develop him, give him a year to learn, I think this kid can be really good. But I think this guy comes to my radar. It's like I like this kid's tape. Jalen, I think that his name is Jalen Travis from Iowa State. Like maybe you get him in maybe 5th or 6th round, but he's 6'7", got a nice body size. He can be molded nicely to, like, he can do exactly what Jalen Moore would be. Maybe be a nice swing tackle.
Yeah.
Down the road, maybe he can be your starter over McKivitz. Who knows? But he's got some nice potential. So it's like I'm looking at more of those guys, and I like his movement a little bit. Then you look at a guy from Washington State, S.L. Pohl, whatever his name is, pretty big Samoan dude. Yep. I like his game a little bit, but it's like that's why he would be a good one to develop into day 3, because those day 3 picks, you don't have to start these guys right away. You can mold them until like next year or 2, and maybe they can have a significant role. But like you said, Nick Sacal just hasn't really got a fair chance.
No. And listen, if they go, you don't have to go tackle early to be a starting tackle and beat out McKivitz. I think McKivitz gets a little bit of a bad rap. Is he a world beater, all pro bowler? No, but he's getting paid, I think, like $2.5 or $2.7 million a year. It's not like he's a $10 million tackle and he's underperforming. I mean, what they're getting out of McKivitz compared to what Mike McGlinchey's doing in Denver, and that cost difference, that's a win. But if they were to take a Campbell or a Banks or an Mbauer or someone that could beat out McKivitz, that just makes your line stronger, because then you could have McKivitz fight it out at left guard with Barch, or McKivitz is your swing tackle. And that makes your
I would think him as a swing tackle would be better.
You just push one out, and you get one starter out, and now that starter is a high-end backup. That's why I think Niner fans in general, when they look at the starting O-line week 1 of the season, they're not going to see many different faces from outside the organization, right? We talked about Hennessy. He's the starting center, but he's not from outside the organization. Barch is coming back. He could be a left guard. He's not from outside the organization. It might literally just be right tackle, and that's a draft pick. So it might not look – I think people are expecting, all right, 3 of 5 starters need to be new. That's not going to happen.
Doesn't work that way.
No.
I just think that this is how they would approach it. Like maybe if they see the best tackle available, and if he happens to be at number 11 or maybe 2nd round, they like this kid, and maybe they'll take him. But if I'm being honest, I think they're going to go D-line in the 1st round. I don't know if it's D tackle or pass rusher, but I think that's where we're going to go with, because if you look at what's going on, is they're cleaning up a lot of the bad contracts, and they're weighing their options on Leonard Floyd and Yoto Mosgrato. So can they be on the chopping block out?
Listen, and I know people are calling, for cuts, because I don't know if it's sexy or exciting when they hear about people getting cut. My whole thing, and I'm not a very patient person in life, I don't think, but I keep saying, like, they got to build a 90-man roster. Let's say they bring in Joey Bosa and they draft a D end. There's no reason to cut anybody now, right? First of all, if they cut them post June 1st, they'll save, $6, $7, $8 million on either one of those DNs on the cap. But more importantly, the way the Niners injury luck runs, what if a DN or 2 gets hurt in a preseason game, in training camp, or joint practice? Like, keep 6 good, I'm just making this up, like say 5 or 6 good DNs on the roster. And if you're going to cut anybody and everyone's healthy, cut in September, right? Like, just get through that war of attrition, the dog days of summer. And then if you want to get rid of someone or trade him, do it. But I'm not a fan of cutting anybody now. Like acquire talent, then let them fight it out.
Let it compete throughout training camp and throughout the preseason. See what happens. Let's see, like you said, injuries can happen, and one of them could be placed on IR, and you probably need that guy that you probably had thoughts maybe cutting on the block. But hey, if he's there, you keep him. So it's like, but I feel like our defense line's got a lot of work. So just from the way it's looking, it's pretty weak. It's going to need to be it's going to have to be rebuilt from the defensive line. I think defensive line is probably going to be the most important part because you have Nick Bosa, so you're going to retool that inside because Hargrave is gone. And outside of that, all you have is Jordan Elliott, who's kind of like, I don't know about him.
Between Elliott, Collins, and Evan Anderson, those are your
Collins. Yeah, Collins
those are
is like
three tackles, right? I mean, I thought Collins was a decent. I mean, they got Collins for a 7th round pick, and he acquitted himself, I think, as well as Nick Sorensen allowed him to acquit himself. And Elliott was a starter for the Browns, so you kind of had like, oh, all right, your 3 tackles, Hargrave, Elliott, and Collins. Those are 3 starters in the league. That's a good rotation. It didn't work. They got to bring someone in from free agency, mid-level,
like at least a big body. Like get a big body, like kind of like what you had with Evan Anderson. He was showing development right there. So you maybe in the draft you get somebody that's just he could take double the blocks, open up for the linebackers, or at least get easier for the end to roll around and get to the quarterback. So there's a lot of good ways we can do it. That's why our run defense was very bad because our D tackles just weren't able to stop the run as effective.
No,
like the wide 9 didn't work because our guys weren't setting the edge or making the plays necessary.
No, and Sorensen is I don't say significantly, partly to blame for that. He wasn't putting his players in the right position. I think the talent, even on defense with whatever injuries they had, was still better than a 6-11 team. But I don't know if this is going to cause a philosophy shift of, are they still going to look for more of the Hargrave type of D tackle where it's more penetrating, more pass rush than run defense? It's coming out of the draft. It's going to be rare that you're going to have a prospect that's going to be complete, that can do both in their first, forget the rookie year, their first 2 years. Are they going to add more beef in the middle, kind of like what the Ravens have with their D tackles? I guess it depends on, who's a free agent or who's available in the draft. I think if Mason Graham falls to 11 and the knee winds up being okay, I think that's a must get. Like even
it's
over a tackle
because of the production. But then there's another guy, there's Kenneth Grant also, who I like also. So he's another big body. But I feel like you don't have to go to, like, you can still get another one. This is so deep in this class. Like, I think, if I'm mistaken, I think one of the guys from the draft even said that last year he had 12 guys that he would have as starters, but this year he has like double, which is 24 guys that he feels that they can be starters.
I think, and I'm not going to say that defensive end is even deeper because it's probably not. But if, let's say, the Niners go D tackle in the first, I think there's going to be a decent D end, whether it's Sawyer, whether it's Landon Jackson, whether it's Princely from Ole Miss, whether it's JT from Ohio State. I mean, there's at the top of the second round, you can still get an
starting quality guy or a nice rotation player.
If they don't take Pierce or whoever else at D end in Williams or whatever from any of the Georgia players. Not that D tackle thins out in the second round, but I'm just curious about that. If you're going to stack quality on top of quality, is the better order D tackle, D end? I don't know. I mean, and then the draft happens and everything explodes anyway.
Yeah, it depends on the D tackle. Like, he has to fit the system. Like, everybody keeps saying Walter Nolan would be an ideal fit for our defense because he kind of has the skill sets that fit, but then there's a little mix between maybe Kenneth Grant would be the ideal we need to have at D tackle.
I mean, if we're going to ask, do I want a 290-pound D tackle or 335? The way the run defense looked last year, give me the 335 guy, right?
Give me them big guys. Yeah, give me them big boys. Like, I mean, like, for example, like give me a guy like CJ West or somebody, or there's this kid from Georgia Tech that I'm supposed to have on Sunday, Zeke Biggers. This guy is 6'6", 320-pound D tackle, man. This guy is a good run stopper. So, like, this guy, JJ Pagee. I think you're referring to a Peebles, but he's under he's like 290.
Well, and they have some of the mocks I was doing, just again because I love to kill 15 minutes. Like,
don't get me wrong, I like Peebles. I like Peebles' like upside. Maybe he's like a young Kobe Turner. I see his tape from Virginia Tech. He kind of gives me a little bit of Kobe Turner, but oh man, don't get me on with David Walker, man. That's my guy. I interviewed this guy. I interviewed him like weeks ago. This guy's got a motor. This guy's got relentless, dude. This guy, you know what his nickname is? The Terminator.
Nice.
No, but he's unblockable. Like, the competition he's played, man, 30 sacks, the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, it's
And even at the Senior Bowl, dude, unblockable. Like so unblockable that even the coach, he was even going to apologize to the coach for getting them constantly, and the guy says, "Don't worry about it." It's like,
no, you can't. No, they're out there. They're out there to show out, man. I think this year, I was surprised last year when they announced their opening roster. Niners only had 8 defensive linemen on the 53, 4 D tackles, 4 D ends. That's got to change. They got to. I'm at least right now. It's what, March 7th. They got to have 10 D linemen on the 53, 5 D tackles, 5 D ends. And I'm just making it easy, making it balanced. And if they can stockpile talent and bring a Bosa in and still keep Floyd and Gross Matos, and you draft somebody in the 2nd, 3rd round, and that's, you got a nice rotation coming in. The same thing at D tackle. I mean, they need more, and you're only going to probably have 8 of them active on your game day roster anyway, probably 4 and 4. But the body count was dropping quickly last year, either from talent deteriorating, or Elliott missed some time, Colin missed some game. Like they need some fresh and young bodies, and again, let it all fight out in the summer, man, and then cut people in September. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah,
best man wins.
You need to see what you got with those guys, but I think that's what part of the draft is. You get a lot of these young guys, see what they're all about.
Yep.
And if they need a year to develop, or if they don't fit the system, you can just move on with them. But yeah, we'll definitely see how that plays out, man. But man, we've been going on for a while. I know you probably got a lot to look forward to. I mean, I know you. So for those people, man, like, where can they find your platform, man?
So I'm on Twitter. I probably respond to comments more than I post stuff. So I'll usually do a podcast. I'm on YouTube, on Spotify. During the season, I'll do a podcast Monday recapping the game, and then Thursday looking ahead. Now that we're kind of slowing down a little bit, I'm sure I could post more than once a week, but I'm just like, I'll just usually do like a Wednesday, Thursday podcast, go back from the information the past couple days. And then if something crazy happens, like Brock signs, or they free agency, they rattle some stuff up Monday, Tuesday, I would jump on for a second one. But yeah, on YouTube, 49ers Plus podcast, 49ers Plus, all one word, podcast the other word. And Twitter, I'm on Instagram a little bit, might get on TikTok. I just not enough hours in the day. That's why people like you, man, that are doing the grind, doing God's work, and putting the hours in, I have a lot of respect for, because the minimal hours I'm putting in, I'm like, shit, man, how can I even do more? God bless these people.
I mean, I just go the extra limit, but there's times I have to balance my schedule. So it's not like, it's like some people keep thinking I do this all the time. Like, not really. I had to balance all the schedule because of my, you got to focus on priorities and all that stuff. But
oh yeah, just
I'm not able to balance it because my job is a night shift, and then balancing it with my wife and everybody else, it makes it easier for them to respect it. So it's all good,
Yeah. Well, and plus, and you're getting people on, like nobody's like myself, but then you're getting draft prospects on. I've watched your stuff. I never saw the intro between like the former Niners that you had on, like all good. I mean, as I said, man, you're putting in the work.
Yeah, I'm putting in all the work, man. I mean, I may not be as big as the Grant Cohns or the David Lombardis and all that, but I'm just a fan just like everybody else, man. I just love the game. I kind of relate to the football players because I played the game myself. Yeah. I mean, the last final year that I played was in the semi-pros, and I was playing with a broken ankle, not the same player, but played through the pain. So when I criticize guys like Jake Brendel, I kind of relate to those positions because I played center.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah. So, everything kind of goes from here. But like you, bro, I've seen your content. You go on for so long, dude. I get it. You're giving everybody the knowledge and all the breakdowns. So you're kind of like explaining why this is what they do and this stuff, So I think the more content creators like you come around, the better. Maybe you work on your schedule, how you want to work it. But it's a great feeling to have different opinions, whether we disagree or we agree,
It certainly is. That's like kind of the joy of social media, or at least that was the vision, right? Internet, social media, knowledge sharing. But then you got the dark side of like, being a fan and being as knowledgeable as you are. And you see sometimes some of the crazy stuff that's put out there, or the engagement baiting stuff, or this player got released, or the Niners sign him, this shit. And there's kind of stuff where it's like, yeah. And I think the thing that probably, maybe, I don't want to say frustrates me the most, I don't know how you feel about this, but when like national media personalities get involved, making predictions, saying stuff, what's going on with the team, and they're not nearly as close. They're not a Matt Barrows, and they're not a Matt Mayoko, they're not a Mike Silver, and they're saying stuff, and it's almost taken like gospel, and we're looking at it, rolling our eyes, like, okay, that's not going to happen.
Oh yeah, you said you're from the East Coast, somewhere down New Jersey, huh?
Yeah, I'm in New Jersey. I'm in Passaic County, about 40 minutes outside of New York City through the Lincoln Tunnel, Route 46.
Okay, so you're like you said, you're more close to the Jets and Giants area, so
yeah, about a half hour.
I'm kind of in between, like the Rams and Chargers would be like a 3-hour drive towards LA.
Okay.
Over here would be like 2.5 hours towards Santa Clara Bay Area. So I'm like in the middle.
You've been to Levi South?
Nah, I actually I was going to have an opportunity, but whatever happened, they just didn't have the money to take us to the party bus that day. And then even by then, it was like, dude, I couldn't even afford financially last year. Last year I could have went out there, but financially was just not in the best interest because I was struggling a little bit at the time. So like if I could make it to the games, I could, but it's like gotta focus on other stuff. So it's it's kind of hard, but I've kind of taken breaks with going to these games, but I still watch games from a side. But so it's not like, it comes from like all balances. But that was the last game I went to was the NFC Championship game, which is crazy.
Dude, that's a good one to go to. And at least the Niners are at the Giants this year. Obviously, we don't know when the schedule is going to come out. Hopefully it's not, even if it's a December game, I'll go, but it'd be nice if it's like warm weather, how it can get kind of iffy in the Northeast. And at some point I would, love to go out there and take one or both of my kids out to a Niner game.
Yeah. Has anybody ever told you that you look like Vic Fangio?
I look like, do I take that as a compliment? He's got like 20 something years on me.
No, but you gotta have that Fangio look.
Fangio looks like me.
Yeah, because when I look at Fangio, I look at the face, I'm like, hey, that looks like you.
That's that Northeast. I get, well, his name ends in a vowel, so I guess he might be Italian too. So, all right, I'll take it.
Yeah, I think that's what he is, Italian or some type of mob or something.
How different the defense could have been, man, if he actually signed with Kyle in 2017, right?
It could have been, or what could have been if we had Tom Brady's final years. Who knows?
I know.
A lot of our fans would want to know that. But, hey, man, definitely appreciate your time. I know you got a lot going on. We'll definitely catch up. Maybe we can do something after the draft if you want to. Yeah,
dude. No, listen, honestly, this was fantastic. If schedules work out again in like coming weeks and, through free agency and you want to chat some more, I know obviously we're connected on Twitter, reach out anytime, man. Love to chat. Love the energy.
You want me to come on your show, let me know and I'll jump in.
Yeah, you know what? I'm doing the free version of this software, so I'm not as knowledgeable like tech wise since I haven't been doing video for that long. If I'm able to do it, I certainly will. I've yet to actually have anybody on my show. I just do it myself. I record it, during the day or at night, edit it together, and post it to YouTube. I've never actually done a live stream. I'm behind.
We'll definitely figure it out, man. But hey, for those people, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll definitely catch up sometime.
All right, thanks a lot, everybody.
Yeah, hold on.